for me, this was almost like an orchestra where, yeah, the drums, they were a bit loud, so I needed to amplify some of the other areas. Because you just see so clearly that where is it that we struggle, where is it that we are weak. If one person on holiday, then we don't do discovery. Okay, wow, then we have 5 people waiting for that, right? So, yeah. So that was super important. And as I said, with this structure of just say, almost like in school, you had a school scheme. Like we have innovation time from 9 in the morning to 2 in the afternoon every single day. We can be reserved for any sales conversation unless it's a discovery call that we have initiated. So I have tried to enforce some rules that is, of course, hard to a business who is used to just, get product in whenever they want and yeah.
Hey there, I'm Afonso, and if you're not subscribed to the show, you are missing out. I'm interviewing 30 product leaders in Scandinavia, and there are so many insights to share with you in this season. Make sure you subscribe to the newsletter. And by the way, if you enjoy what I'm doing here in the evenings, please share it on LinkedIn, any episode. These things really help the show stay relevant and reaching more people. All right, today's episode is with my friend Frederik Hansen, CPO at Ignite and former CPO at Bookis. Frederik shared how he approaches starting a new leadership role with a 1-month grace period, how to implement a healthy environment to do discovery and building products collaboratively, the importance of having strong principles in place, and so much more. I hope you enjoyed this conversation, and without further ado, I bring you Frederik Hansen. Frederik, we are live. How are you today?
Yeah, good man. How are you?
I'm good. It's good to see you. It's late in the evening, so I'm happy you managed to be here. I'm excited for this conversation. Really excited. You are the former CPO at Bookis. You are the organizer of ProductTank in Oslo, or a co-organizer. You're also the co-founder of Produktleder.no, Norway's largest community for product managers and product leaders. And you're currently the CPO at Ignite, and we've been talking a lot about your journey at Ignite, and I think it's incredibly exciting. I'm so looking forward to dig into this a little bit. And I know that you've done something very interesting when you started this role as a CPO. So let's dig into that. Let's start straight away. What did you do when you started as a CPO at Ignite?
Yeah, so I think for most PMs, they will definitely see some connections to what they do in their job. So I think it's interesting to see the connections with that leadership layer and what you do there. So if I should try to explain it brief, I really love discovery, and I really like to understand the problems before I try to solve them. So the same thing I did when joining in Bookis and now in Ignite, asked for 1 month of grace period, 1 month where I did not go operational in the role, but just were, I think I said observing and absorbing everything. So it is nice. It was a month of first of all data collection. Meaning talking to a lot of the people internally in the business. So PMs, designers, technologists, people in the commercial team and customer success, the founders and so on, to get that like 360 degree on what's working, how are things working, all of that. On top of that, interviewing some customers, understanding their world, but also how that product we were offering were like, what there was the perception of that, the good and the bad things. And then obviously digging into the product, understanding it myself, and seeing, what we have built, how it's performing in terms of activation, adoption and retention and so on. So based on a couple of weeks of just data gathering, it was going into this synthesizing mode. So in Miro, I think I had 1,000 post-its and just started without really knowing what will come out of it, but just starting to see those patterns slowly but surely processing it. And what was clear was I needed some kind of way to distill and make it simple for people to understand. So I tried to explain it as this onion that the outer layer is what the company is offering, so the product. Middle inner layer is how we are developing the product, and the inner layer is perhaps the most interesting one. Why are we doing everything? What's the philosophy in the company at its core, from the founders and the people who are there? Why are we doing what we're doing? So that was really what came out of it, presented to both the management team and later on the product team and the full organization, to make sure everyone sort of got my diagnosis of what was the baseline, as I call it, the baseline from where we're going to improve.
And I think this should be common practice for every CPO starting the role. This 1 month grace period, or whatever works, but at least having a grace period to do what you did, to just jump into discovering and talking with every single part of the business. What were the 3 layers again? Can you repeat?
So it was outer layer was what? So the product. Middle layer was how. So how do we develop product? A lot about the product environment, the people there, the balance between tech, design, and PMs, the philosophy. So are we waterfall? Are we not? All of these elements. And then the inner layer is the why that I tried to explain. Exactly. Are we like sales-led? Are we founders-led? Are we investors-led? Are we customer-led? So trying to give a bit of my interpretation of what is sort of ruling in this company.
Yeah, interesting. And did you share the process along the way, or were you more sort of closed and gathering a lot of insights and then just disclosing the grand conclusion in the end?
For some of the people close to me, so the 2 founders, the 3 founders almost, they were sort of in the loop of the process, but no one were allowed to see anything. So there was a bit of sort of this mystery when I put it on the table, right? But you don't, especially when come into the roles I've been in, where product is not perhaps the most mature thing. Then I would always try to protect the work a bit and make sure that, come with a really solid, strong case and not let anyone affecting you in that journey. So it has to be quite on your own there. But there was a big sort of, I think, interest when it was revealed. Definitely.
How was that reaction? How was the reaction when it was revealed?
No, I think for at least some of the comments was like, okay, this makes a lot of sense, but we have never been able to connect the pieces together. I have seen this, but I didn't understand that it was sort of, So it's sort of I gave them the full puzzles, and they were sitting with pieces and not necessarily connecting it because they didn't have the frameworks to do so.
Right.
And maybe also the bias and the curse of knowledge of being in a company for a long time. You don't ask the same questions, right? As a new one with fresh eyes. So
absolutely, I think that's definitely the beauty of all of this as well, is that you come with fresh eyes and you see things that people that have been working for a long time in a company don't necessarily see. So that's really, really great. I want to ask one last question on this topic. And just share whatever you're comfortable with, but I'm interested in learning if there were any challenges that you faced when doing this process. If there's any kind of bumps in the road or lessons learned for you or aha moments that you would like to share for people listening.
No, I think the first one is just making sure that you get that grace period, that you get the mandate not to go operational. It might be that after 2 weeks, people are like, come on, we need you in this meeting with this customer. You need to go into this discussion. So you have to be sort of just make sure you reserve that time is perhaps the most important thing. I would never like to see that I was like interrupted in between and never came to the finish line. Um, Obviously, what I was very cautious about is that a very honest baseline analysis will, for someone, it can feel tough, right? Telling you that there's tons of things we can do even better. So it's about also delivering it in a caring way where it's more it's direct, but it's also giving you a way out. There must not be just a baseline without a couple of areas where you say, hey, I really believe we can transform this area and this area. And if I would like to show you a bit what good looks like elsewhere. And then people start to, get motivated and want to support and fund that journey that you want to take you, the team, the whole organization on.
Absolutely. And what were those sort of main areas that you decided to invest more in, to elevate the company even further?
Yeah. I think I can explain a bit from the 2 or 3 times I've done this now that what I see is very common is that for the outer layer, the what layer, we have been in a situation for many years before the interest rate went up a couple of years ago, where funding was easy to get. Most ideas could easily get a lot of funding, right? So what you have to look out for is really the retention part. You shouldn't be that pleased of being able to bring customers in. What you should be happy about is that they are going to stay in year 2, 3, and 4. So that is something I've seen over and over, that maybe immature products are scaled too fast. And what I mean by scaled is that you build the organization around it to go into operation mode. Hire salespeople, you hire marketing people, you hire customer success people, but is the product really ready? At least not just by looking into these cases I've been deeply involved in. It's just what I see in so many of the cases, not just here in Norway, but around the world, really. So we definitely had to look for an even better product market fit, a stronger product that could retain better, that is easier to sell, easier to onboard, and the time to value would improve and so on. So that was one area. But that required that, the how layer, okay, how on earth have we developed this product? What is it we need to change? And here I've often seen this, the waterfall approach, obviously, in some way. And even in really good product teams, I sometimes see that, it's not necessarily Niagara Falls waterfalls, but there is some sequences that you could sort of get rid of and make people work much more side by side, much more like give and take way, to really smoothen it out and make sure that engineers are part of early discovery, but they're also part of making sure that the design is not a waterfall. We need to make sure that design is feasible and it's smart and it's very effective when we choose what the concept we look for as a. So that's one thing, and also I just saw that in companies where you have done this scale up, that you tend to go into operation mode, and then you spend a lot of time serving the existing customers, even though you don't have enough of them to pay all the bills. So in this case, I had to enforce that we spend more time on innovation and discovery, and it basically meant that we needed to carve out time every single day for innovation. And it should be a structure that I put in place. It shouldn't be up to the individual to say, hey, now I'm going to block my calendar for today. Because I saw example of people just say, hey, I know your calendar is blocked, but you need to go into this and this meeting in operation time. So, setting some good structures is definitely so important. So it's not up to the individual to choose if you can do innovation or not.
Exactly. So I know you still you're probably going to talk about the why, but I just wanted to comment on these 2 layers that you talked about. So on the what, you said you focused on retention, because that is usually, I totally agree, where a lot of business struggle with to get the retention that they really need in a way. And then the rationale was, just correct me if I'm wrong, the rationale was, okay, if we're going to increase retention from X to Z, then we need to have a different operating model, because there are these and these and these and these things that we should probably think about doing a bit differently. And so we're talking more about the operating model there on, basically thinking how we can improve how teams work, bringing engineers closer to discovery, getting the design and product and engineering to really work together. So that to me is an area where a lot of CPOs neglect. So I think a lot of CPOs think a lot about the what, and perhaps the why as well, also when it comes to vision and so on, but then they somehow neglect the how we work to actually drive this value. So I'm really happy to hear that you, of course, reflected on this. It's very inspiring.
Yeah, and in this case, I can also say that looking at the balance between engineers, PMs, and designers to make sure that there's a good balance, so no one's become the bottleneck, is important. And I really see that depends on the business, and sometimes very random coincidence that we have ended up with a bit larger group here over here and a smaller group over here, or we have had strong voices over here who got better budget than the others. So for me, this was almost like an orchestra where, the drums, they were a bit loud, so I needed to amplify some of the other areas. Because you just see so clearly that where is it that we struggle, where is it that we are weak. If one person on holiday, then we don't do discovery. Okay, wow, then we have 5 people waiting for that, right? So, So that was super important. And as I said, with this structure of just say, almost like in school, you had a school scheme. Like we have innovation time from 9 in the morning to 2 in the afternoon every single day. We can be reserved for any sales conversation unless it's a discovery call that we have initiated. So I have tried to enforce some rules that is, of course, hard to a business who is used to just, get product in whenever they want, and the same for engineering, trying to fix operational stuff here and there. So trying to set a bit more structure of when we do what.
Absolutely. Just to clarify, Frederik, you said we. Do you mean the cross-functional team that is focused on innovation from 9 to 2?
Yeah. So
okay.
We call it
every team, all teams, or some more than others, or all teams. They have that allocated time throughout the week to focus on discovering value and delivering value.
Exactly.
Rather than maintaining and operationalizing and managing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Cool.
So even though I call it innovation time, it's really it's where you do deep work. It's where you disconnect from Slack. It's where you really get down to the deeper layer where you can work for 1.5 hours. Then you're completely drained. Then you need to get up and get some air, right?
Yeah.
Because I've just seen that. Yeah, with Slack and digital tools, we are also at work being, it's stealing our time all the time during the day. So I needed to sort of bring some calmness into it. And I think one of the areas I was inspired by is that I once worked in a global biotech company where we had physical R&D rooms where you put on your white jacket and you went in to make experiments, right? And there was just a calmness and a focus when going into those rooms. So there was a clear distinction. When were you doing admin work? When would you do presentations on your laptop? And when were you in that room and actually trying to innovate? So trying to bring that into digital innovation as well.
Awesome. So what were some of the results from starting to do this? Like when you started to allocate this time for all the teams at Ignite, what did you see gradually?
Yeah, no, I think there was a introduction phase where both the product teams and the product department and the rest of the business needed to adapt to it. It's like, oh, it's a new world. It's quite a big move to go that dramatically over in this operation time and in an innovation time. But what you saw is that big increase in the number of discovery visits and interviews we were able to do. It was on a weekly basis for many weeks. Even though I'm pretty pragmatic about it, doesn't need to be the Marty Kagan seven meetings a week. I think for me it's like there just needs to be a good cadence that we have been validating and listening to customers within a certain period of time, which often could be maximum 2 weeks. Longer than that, we will start to have discussions that is not influenced by customers but our own biases. So an increase in this amount of discovery work that then resulted in concept testing, trying to put out some live data prototypes and seeing in a few 8 weeks time that we were able to deliver a quite good almost like envisioned version or a new version or a rethink of what the old product was. And I don't believe you could ever have done that if you had like operation coming in here and there, and innovation was something that was just down prioritized.
Right.
And now we have seen it now work for 9 months, and we are actually this week doing a major release of what is like a future version of the platform, which I think is quite a good speed of doing that, and like ripping it apart, putting it back again, adding some new stuff, and then getting it out. So it has definitely shown some results for sure.
Cool. So good to hear. Before we move into the next section on diving into discovery, because I know you this is one of your passions in product. Just one last question on this topic. If you were to do all of this again, the whole process of both the 1 month grace period plus the 9 months that have passed, is there anything you would do differently?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think one thing I would at least hope for is that we did 5 hirings of some key players to boost the team, and I would like just wish that they could come on earlier. And at least in Norway, it takes almost 6 months to get people in, right? Exactly. Find people and hire them. So, but I don't think I could do that much differently. But it's just to say that, just like in a football team, when you have a solid team, but you add a couple of more players, suddenly it snaps into place, and it's really beautiful to see that harmony that can come out of it with having the complete team, complete trios, really good people on PM and design to elevate further the great technologies we have in Ignite.
Exactly.
Yeah, but
cool.
Else it's really hard. I think I can at least say I would not have been successful if I was not like persistent, saying no to ideas about getting rid of innovation time after 2 weeks, reducing it to more than I said. So you need to stick with it, and of course you need to not within too long time show that there is coming some good results out in the other end. Else people will lose the patience.
So moving into discovery, tell me. I mean, you've alluded to some of some experiments you've done with the live prototypes as well. But I'm going to ask a more open question, and then you can decide where to go. I know you love experimentation. I know you've done it a lot throughout your career in different contexts. For folks that are listening, that are digging into discovery, what are some of your kind of biggest learnings approaching discovery, experimenting ideas? And if you can, share some actual examples of how you tested some ideas before.
I think if I have to boil it down, I think de-risk up front is the word to put on discovery for me. Because if you have tried, and I think most have, unless they're born into modern product development, which I think few have. But then you have also tried to come up with an idea to get some kind of signals that is not necessarily valid, and then you have such a high confidence, and then you launch, and then you're like, oh man, no one is buying it, or why didn't I see this coming, right? So you feel so stupid, and I have done that many times, and I think it's just out of pure learning that you sort of figure out why de-risking upfront is so important, because you don't want to look like a fool months down the road. So that's really important, and it's just not, it's not just the value, right? It's also to make sure, coming a bit back to the Venn diagram of making sure that it's, how early in the process can we figure out if it's useful? How early in the process can we figure out what technology to build it on, and what kind of architecture that will be good enough, not too complex, not vague enough. So it's the whole team. It's not just PM who is on a discovery journey here, right? So that's the most important thing to say. I think to be very sort of humble, I'm still super curious to figure out, is there a way to do even more lean discovery, getting strong enough and precise enough evidence that we're on the right track with less time, less money spent on it. So it's I think it's continuous learning, and I think you'll be a fool to say that you should not continue to test new methods and try new technologies for doing it.
Absolutely. De-risking up front before building anything, that's your sort of main takeaway, and I really like that. We had Davey Bland on a podcast, the author of Testing Business Ideas, which is my favorite book on testing ideas and discovery, alongside continuous discovery habits, maybe. But and he talks about how the lean startup loop, the build, measure, learn, is flawed, because you actually should start with learn, obviously, not
exactly.
And I love that mental model. Cool. So let's go into a particular, very actionable example. Walk us through one of these ideas that you've tested, and how did you start testing? What techniques did you use? Who was involved? How do you evolve that evidence with maybe different testings, experiments? Walk us through one of these examples, if you have one that you would like to share.
Yeah. No, I think I have a special love for the Wizard of Oz. I think this, discovering and delivering, it's often like we do stuff in Figma over here, and then we build rock solid code over here. And then you have this beautiful thing in the middle where you don't know really what, or the user believe it's a product, but it's not a product, but it's Figma on steroids. So I really love when we can get to that point where it's put in the hands of users, and with us not moderating it, but it doesn't need to be a rock solid product, because that's too long. So one example is a couple of years ago, I was a PM consultant. I helped a client establish a second-hand e-commerce store online, and we had to figure out if parents wanted to buy second-hand children's clothing instead of buying it on a marketplace, for example. So here we decided not to dive in and just make a full-fledged e-commerce platform connected to payment providers and shipping providers. So we tried to be very lean. We kept the assortment super lean, and we made a good enough front end to show some clothing. As soon as you came to the checkout, we were saying, hey, the clothes is almost yours. We just need to know a bit where you live, and then give us your phone number, we'll call you. People were showing us that behavior all the way to that, when we stopped the trick almost. We were delivering the clothes. We did it ourselves. We didn't want to integrate with a logistic provider, because that was not what we were testing. We were testing what will take to get an order. We were not implementing with payment providers, so we were saying to them after they received the clothes, if you're happy with the order, you just send money to charity, you take a screenshot and you provide that to us. That is like money in our pockets for showing that people want to pay for this service. So it was for me a super fun exercise, and it was fun to bike to a customer and also get the bonus of seeing them opening the package and see what do they do with it. So that's just an example of many weeks we were saving from not doing those hygiene integrations that we knew would not be valuable unless the first part was super valuable. So within a couple of weeks, we were able to get that store up and running and see 10 people buying from it and learning so much that now it's scaled up and at a very different place where it was back then.
Absolutely. That's you've mentioned that story before to me. I really like that story. I'm also a big fan of Wizard of Oz experiments. And for those folks that are listening that work in large organizations that are thinking right now, oh my God, I would never be able to do this with my brand in there. There are ways to do this with, for example, white labeling. So not showing your brand at all. You can still test a lot of desirability and viability. And there are variants with these experiments to more risk-averse organizations or where brand is sensitive, for example. So I just wanted to add that. But so, Frederik, on this topic of testing ideas quickly, like you did, now you're a CPO, how are you fostering this culture at Ignite right now? What are the habits you're trying to promote at Ignite so that the teams are testing ideas as fast as you would want to and as collaboratively as you would want to? Yeah,
I think that the one way of doing it is obviously to implement what I would call the product principles to sort of foster a desired behavior you want to see people take. So it's almost like the core value of our product development. When I came to Ignite, one of the first things I saw was that we need to be much better at discovery. And so I borrowed a term of saying we need to not to go to the zoo, but to the savannah. Meaning that we need to go out and see how people are behaving in the real life. We need to see now it's a B2B product, right? So we need to see the work desk. We need to see all the post-it notes that is flying around with all these clues of what's not working in our product, or like, you have to remember to filter up here and do this over here. And that you'll never get by inviting them to your office, right? You'll have to ideally to visit them. Second rank is to get them into a call and let them share the screen and like see what they see when they see your product. So this is just one example of a key principle where it's almost like a concept, and you can talk about that concept. And I had to explain it. I have to show examples of it, and hopefully see people living by it. So that's an example. What's of course super fun is that when you see teams coming to you and also say, "Hey, we have found a new way of experimenting that I didn't even know of," right? And it's so you can't be on the forefront of the individual technique, but you can be on the forefront of like saying, be curious, read a lot, learn a lot, and try it out. It's fine to try it out, and I'm applauding every quarter if we try out new techniques. So that's the thing you have to do on the CPO level, I would say.
Yeah. So the last part there is, I think, incredibly important, even though it sounds like a detail, the applauding part. So that is the incentive. Having you as Chief Product Officer applauding the team coming up with new techniques and testing faster and talking about the learnings and so on, that applause, quote unquote applause, is so important to drive that motivation, to drive that culture that you want to see. So you are literally incentivizing that behavior. I think a lot of product leaders don't think so thoroughly of this, of the things that we applaud, the things that we, the behaviors that we incentivize by the language we use, by our actions. That's such an important sort of sounds like a detail, but it really is crucial. And I love your metaphor of getting out of the zoo and going to the savannah. That's brilliant. Love it. All right. So you mentioned that you hired some PMs. And mentioning some of the behaviors that you want to see. So for folks that are, or for product leaders that are looking into hiring PMs, what are some of what's your, generically speaking, because I know that context matters a lot, but generically speaking, what do you look for in a PM when you're hiring her or him?
Yeah, I think I look for the same 5 core elements that I help and coach my PMs with, that I already have hired, and I would love to share them. They are obviously a bit generic, but we use them a lot in every one-on-one conversation to sort of have some hooks to put the conversation around. The first one is seeing that they are able to have a good understanding of the problem. Is the first one. Problem understanding. Second one is when you have sort of understand the problem space, then you need to make a strategy. You need to sequence what goes first. Of all these opportunities, what should we do first? So it's a lot about strategy. When it's not too high strategy, I call it sequence, because it's often within a quarter also, okay, what goes first of the things we want to do. Third is about experimentation. Okay, so how do you de-risk, as I said before, come up with a concept and de-risk it. Number 4 is about building smart. I also believe PM has a crucial role here to figure out what is good enough and will drive enough value that they also have a crucial role in orchestrating with design and tech. And 5th, I look for people who are, I call them great host of the party. It's about stakeholder management. It's about being a good leader in the team. It's about being good representative for the product towards the organization, towards customers. But we try to call it a good host of the party because we know that really great hosts are inviting people in. They know when to be direct. They know when to turn up the music. They also know when to kick people out of the party, right? So I think that has resonated quite well with people that, okay, I have to be a good host. What is it that person do? Because often what you don't want to do is you don't want to see, for example, a really strong product team becoming very almost introvert, not listening to the business, not utilizing the smart people you have around you that also knows a lot. So the sort of the second tier of a product team, if you have the trio in the middle or the product team in the middle, there are some incredibly valuable layers on the outside of that who sits with a lot of understanding. Customer success is one, right? They're interacting with customers every single day and support as well. Sales, who is seeing what is it that people are reacting or responding positive or negative to with about the pitch they are providing. So the best teams, they are pretty humble on like inviting in, getting ideas, getting insights in, and then of course they're closing in and say, hey, what do we believe in based on all this inspiration we have got also. So these are the 5 ones.
Awesome. I'm just going to repeat for people listening. Problem understanding, strategy or like sequencing the opportunities, the ability to be able to do that. Experimentation, building smart, so what is good enough, and being the great host of the party. Just a follow-up question on that one, on this last one, host of the party. By the way, I love all of them. Totally agree. How do you try to understand in an interview whether this person is a good host? What are the traits you look for?
I think for interviews you have to be cautious and very careful. Are you hiring on instinct? Are you hiring on test results? Or what are you hiring based on, right? because it can be a fantastic human being you meet in front of you, and then you figure out 2 months later that, wow, I did not de-risk up front. So I definitely believe in a very sort of structured interview approach where you would ask for examples from their real life of situations where they have been a good host of the party. And that for me, that will, you'll see how fast they answer, if they're struggling with answering, or if it's like, oh man, I don't know where to start. Which one should I tell you about? So it's at least a very strong tool in the toolbox when you're hiring, to like ask for examples for any of these, and maybe make them quite hard. Have you ever been in a situation where you were believing you saw a problem but didn't really understand it? So to sort of see if people are willing and humble to also show their learnings and their failures, right? Because that's, if you want people with a growth mindset, it's probably people who have tried and failed a lot, because else they would never have come to this place.
Absolutely. Awesome. Thanks for sharing. All right, Frederik, we need to start wrapping up, but one last question for you. You're very into the community in product in Norway and beyond. What do you think are the biggest gaps in the product community, from what you see? From where we are today to where we, in your opinion, should be?
A good question. I think there is a lot of great talent out there. There is a lot of people who are doing a really good job, who are reading books, who are trying it out, who are discarding some of it, who are actually having what I would call a critical thinking. And I think that is perhaps the most important thing. If I could like boil it down to one thing as a product manager, it's critical thinking. And sometimes I think that's perhaps an area where people can do more training of doing that, because else we will not face our own biases. We will be too confident, and so on. We need to be quite pressure testing our own ideas, our own beliefs, which can be, it's quite, it takes effort, right? It's hard to do, but it's what you see in sports. The best people, the best elite athletes, they go up in the morning and say, hey, how can I do it even better? What is it I did yesterday that is not good enough for now? So that mentality, I played a lot of sports when I was younger, and I'm trying to bring that elite mentality into product as well. So that's one area, I believe. Second is, of course, we just need to get more people running more miles in product. I don't believe you'll be at your best before you have had a couple of rounds and tried quite a lot, both in terms of techniques and different contexts, to sort of see a lot. And naturally, modern product development is new to so many in Norway, so not too many people have these 5 to 10 years experience. It's often 1 to 3. But I hope we can really support a lot of these people who are on that journey, because it's really important we get a lot of more even senior people into these roles and into leadership, because that is what exactly. I see leadership is really needing. Definitely.
Totally agree. Frederik, this was a joy. Once again, thank you so much for joining. Really, really appreciate the conversation, and I'm sure people listening appreciated it too. Where can people find you?
Out of Innovation Town, out of my own deep work town. You can get hold of me from 9 to 2, that's for sure. But either you find me on LinkedIn, or you find me if you know in product leadership, product leader community. I'm always replying to any questions or comments coming in there.
Thank you so much. All right, Frederik, have a great one.
Have a great one. Thanks.
All right, that was it for today. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Make sure you subscribe to my newsletter so you don't miss out, and see you next time.